Today you're going to get a replay from our Sounds to Live By community, a live Q&A on song structure examples. Welcome to Sounds to Live By, the show that helps you write genuine songs that benefit and connect with others. I'm your host, Kevin Keene, and this is episode 16. I hope you're doing all right out there amidst all this COVID craziness, which at the time of this filming, we are in probably beginning of week 3 of when it's been serious, and we're still on, not a full quarantine. I'm in Arkansas. We're not in like a lockdown state, but obviously in a stay in your homes, practice social distancing, all that good stuff. So I hope you're doing all right. The upside to this time, although many are struggling, and I'm not making light of that at all, but the upside is if you're stuck in the house and you have nothing to do, nowhere to go, then there's time to work on your craft, hone your skills a little bit. And if songwriting is something that interests you, this is a great time to write some songs. You've heard me talk before about our responsibility as songwriters, and it's really important during this time that we write songs that encourage people, that help people. Now's a great time to be putting music out that is edifying and uplifting and helping to bring people into a right mindset as it relates to facing these troubling times. And so we have a huge job as songwriters, but we're blessed with a gift to help others, encourage others, and give them hope. And so let's do that. Let's use our gift for the good. Now, before we dive in, if you haven't got my killer melody checklist yet, I want you to go to soundstoliveby.com/checklist and do that right now, or right after this episode, because you're going to want to listen to this. But it's a free guide that just helps you craft better melodies. My gift to you. I want you to have it. But right now, I want to play this live Q&A from a Zoom call that I did with a couple members of our Sounds to Live By community. I wanted to show you what it's like inside this community, the kind of things we talk about, the kind of discussions we get into. I really hope you like it. Here it is. So this is going to be probably like duh stuff to you guys, but I think that when we talk about song structure, it's easy, at least for me, to get stuck in a rut with my song structure where every song is the same. And it's not so much like a big epiphany that there are different song structures. I think we're aware that there are, but my challenge to myself and to all of us is to begin to look at the different kinds of song structures and attempt writing in a vein that we don't normally write. So just kind of real quick, off the bat, there's a couple different ones that I really wanted to highlight. And one of them is the typical verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. And I think that's probably the one we all get stuck in the most. It's not bad, it's what works. And so there's always going to be a fine line between innovation and exploring new ideas, and also if it works, it works. And so I'm not saying like every song you should change from whatever your strong suit is, but just realizing that it may bring some creativity to try some different methods. So verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, to me is kind of the, at least the tried and true, pretty successful, you're going to write a good song and people are going to be able to follow along with it when you follow that pattern. Another structure that I think is just popping up in the last couple years is primarily just to get playlisted and for, radio's not even, I guess radio's still big, but not what it used to be. But now people are going to the chorus right off the bat. So you've got the chorus, verse, chorus. So you end up hitting the chorus like 3 times, 4 times in the song, where you used to only hit it 2 or 3 times. So you're getting an extra chorus per song pretty much. And like I said, that's pretty much just to, you think now we're in an era of we're just trying to capture people's attention. And I'm not saying I believe that's the focus of what we should be doing as artists, but that's the reality of what is happening. And I think we should always push against the common idea of the time, and draw on some old techniques, and then also push forward to some new innovations. But the fact of the matter is that song structure has popped up simply because when people find a Spotify playlist, or they're on shuffle on a radio thing on iTunes or whatever it is, if your song comes across and the intro's too long, or it's not catchy enough, or the verse isn't as good as the chorus, people are going to skip it. And so they started putting the big chorus right up front to let people know this is something you're going to want to listen to. So for better or for worse, whether that's good artistry or not, that's just the fact of the matter that is a prevailing song structure right now. A third structure that I think is really cool to play with is pulling back on some old hymn type themes, where you just have stanzas, where there's not really, you could just either have a chorus that kind of evolves, either lyrically or melodically. It stays the same, but it evolves somehow. Or you just have separate stanzas like a hymn that would just kind of, you repeat the same melody, but it's not, there's not a verse, chorus structure. So that's something to consider as well. But again, it's not something that we have to be stuck to. It's just something to give a try, to give a shot, and just see how it works out. There's also, let's do one more, because I don't want to if we get too many in here, we can't really dive into any one thing. We're just going to be talking about a million different structures.
Hey, Kevin, on that third example, would you say that's like the stanzas? Would you attribute that to like Funeral for a Friend or something like that, where it's just different parts and there's no set structure? Or am I kind of missing the idea of
No, that would make sense. There would also be like a verse, bridge, verse, or like a A, where it'd be like you would have 2 stanzas, 2 verses, and then not even really a chorus, just like a quick turn, and then another verse. And that's kind of what I'm saying. It would be repeating stanzas, but it wouldn't be something that would be completely static. You would have a turn, you'd have like a short bridge in there somewhere to just give, because if it's too monotonous, I love hymns, but the reason a lot of people get bored with hymns is because it's exactly repeating every time. So if you had maybe 3 stanzas with maybe like 1 bridge in between, so like a verse, bridge, verse. So if you listen to the song, it's still Rock and Roll to Me by Billy Joel. That's that pattern. So it's cool to play with these different ideas and structures so that you can pull out the creativity. So for me, for example, I get stuck in the verse, even pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus. So you got like a million parts. Something that I've had people help me with is dropping that pre-chorus maybe on the second time and not doing a pre-chorus again. It just becomes so much. Now, certain songs call for it, so don't be afraid to do it, but just being able to be objective about it, kind of step back from it and say, like, am I taking way too long, especially if the pre-chorus is like repeating like 8 bars or something, a stanza twice, where you could just get to the chorus faster. Because the one thing I do agree with with the starting with the chorus thing first, which I don't think I've ever done. So that for me, that would be an experiment. So the next time I write, I should try to start with the chorus and, you know, hit right off the bat with the best part of the song. But whether it's a chorus or not, whether it's a verse, whatever it is, starting, I heard Brian Johnson say to get to the most interesting part faster. Like whatever you can do to kind of trim the fat. I was just listening to a song literally before I walked up here to get on this, and me and Jessica were listening to it, and the intro was so long, we were just like over it. Like it, and there's people that would be so offended by me saying that because that's artistry and that's people are expressing themselves, and some people love that. Some people can just sit and listen to that and enjoy it, and there's times where I can do that. But it's just something to consider. Is it, you know, is the intro too long? Is it kind of dragging on? Are you repeating parts that aren't necessary? And it all depends on what your motives are. If your motives are just like, I'm doing this for me and I don't care if anybody likes it, then that's totally fine. That, you know, we don't need to even talk about improving songwriting in that case, unless it's just to develop, you know, something for you to enjoy. But I'm always looking at how do I communicate better to people. To me, songwriting is a very connects me to others thing. It is healing for me. It's a way for me to self-discover. It's a way for me to dive deep into some stuff, but it's not, it doesn't end there for me. It's how do I connect with other people? If I can get into a room of people and we're singing this together, that's my end goal. So I'm always looking at what's the obstacle from people being able to connect to this song, because to me the end goal is connection. But that doesn't negate the value of writing for writing's sake. Maybe you just don't release it, or maybe you do release it and don't expect it to connect much. It's just part of your catalog that's, you know, an expressive song that maybe isn't as popular, or it might just be before its time, and a lot of people are discovered well after, you know, they die even, and it's like, wow, this stuff's amazing. So there's a caveat with all of any kind of songwriting coaching I do with people. It's always a caveat of like, take it or leave it, take this advice or not. At the end of the day, it is an art form. So there are no rules. There's no right or wrong way. And so it's really just whatever you want to do to help branch out creatively and press yourself in a way that draws out new material. That's what I'm always looking when I think about songwriting topics or tricks or tips or techniques, is to do something that might create a different environment of expression for me to discover. And so I'd love to hear what you guys think. Any comments or questions, or maybe anything else we can talk about around this topic, go for it.
Well, just kind of something recently before all the pandemic and everything went down. It was the weekend of March 5th. The band Chasing Pictures that I'm in, we've been a band for almost 10 years. We've written, I think, some great stuff, but yep. But in the last like 3 or 4 years, you know, between kids and marriages and businesses, kind of our creative space has been more like rehearsal, just like practicing, getting ready for shows, and like the writing has been more on like one person or another person to like bring a complete idea together. Anyways, we went to an Airbnb and we spent 4 days, 4 nights. You know, we had reserved it with our significant others and our baby mamas and, you know, our employees and everything, and just turned our phones off and really just let loose and wrote music for 4 days. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
But something that your songwriting, the first thing you released, it was like the checklist or whatever, starting with like a melody, and kind of a habit our band's formed is before we even write like a melody or lyrics, we got to have like the structure and the pieces and everything perfect before we even go there. And it was like, that was a challenge that I brought forward, was like, okay, let's forget all of that. And let's just start with that melody and let's just work on that. Okay. What gets stuck in our head about that? What are we overcomplicating? Let's break that down. Let's not get too fancy with it. And we wrote something really awesome, kind of with that structure in mind. And I was pretty happy with that. On top of, just like a really exciting getaway and weekend and kind of a breath of fresh air for our band. Like I worked on a lot of key stuff during our getaway, and I haven't really messed with keys in a while. And so like kind of all of that going into all this extra free time has been super awesome, because I've been motivated. It's like I got a brand new guitar and like I can't put it down, with not feeling like I'm neglecting my family if I get off of work and want to write a song, that evening or something.
Yeah.
So, feeling like there's some balance there. I know it's only 2 weeks in, and like, we're probably going to go a little crazier than we realize with, I don't know, however long we might be doing this for, but I don't know. I appreciate you as a resource, and like you've been super clutch for just kind of like a spring of momentum for kind of the project I've been in, and even just personally and messing around with my acoustic and stuff. So.
Good, man. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, I think it's a good time for all of us to invest in some things we wanted to have time to invest in, and of course spending time with family and making sure that's first, but when there's extra time to approach our creative endeavors with kind of some new mindsets, and because I think the reason we sometimes don't express creatively like we can is because we don't give ourselves the time to try something new. We just kind of go into old ruts and like, this has worked before, let's do it again. And I know for me that's probably true, that if I'm not careful, I slip into a rut, whether it's song structure or whether it's just kind of a certain feel or mood or tone. I can slip into just kind of what I'm comfortable with. But I think the thing about starting with a melody, and my course, I call it the 2-pillar approach to songwriting, because I want it to be clear that it's an approach. It's not the way to write songs, because one, that'd be extremely arrogant, and two, there's also ways to write songs that are completely opposite from what that course says. That's why I want it to be like, that's why I put the word approach in there, and that's what I tell people all the time, is like, this is an approach. I might have 4 more courses at some point that are all different approaches. So it's something to try. It's not it's not like law written in stone, like you have to write this way. And so with everything I put out and with everything I talk to people about, it's all an approach. It's all an exercise it's all trying to get us out of the box we're in and discover some creativity we didn't know we had, which, it crosses over to everything, life and business and family. If we stick to just this rote plan of what we've already figured out and never venture out to new ideas and new, expressions, then it gets dull and boring and stale. And so even if something is like a breakthrough revelational thing in songwriting, at one point we got to be careful not to ride on that so long that we ride that into the ground and don't try anything new, and then it becomes what was once this big huge breakthrough now becomes the next normal stale thing. And that's just through doing it. We just got to keep writing, get enough experience to where we can recognize, okay, I'm getting too comfortable, I need to push myself. Or if we get too far out there and we're like, all right, we can come back to home base for a little bit, let's write something that I know is going to work. It's all just it's meant to be enjoyed. It's a process that's meant to be enjoyed. If we're songwriters, something I think about a lot is if we've been given a gift does not require effort. And so if we're finding ourselves stressed out about songwriting or music and it stops being fun and it becomes this like strain, then we're not operating our gift, because a gift is effortless. And so I'm always trying to think of ways to remove stress and strain, not add to it. And so if anything I teach or anybody else teaches adds strain and stress, then don't listen to it. Only take those things that are going to be benefiting, encouraging you, giving life, because that's what I want to do. So, but like I said, this topic really simple in the sense of what song structure is and the different song structures there are. But the challenge through this is try writing in a song structure you're not familiar with. So like I said, for me, that'd be starting with a chorus first and doing like a big chorus song that I hit 3 or 4 times. So for example, for that, you got to really make sure that chorus is amazing if people are going to hear it 3 or 4 times. If you're going to do a verse, chorus, bridge, chorus song, you better make sure that first verse is captivating enough. That first line, that first melody is captivating enough for people to continue listening. So there's fun challenges no matter which way you go. It's just where you're going to put the focus. If you're going to do like a stanza type song where it's just repeating kind of a main melody with different lyrics, maybe over and over, that's more story form usually. Then you just got to make sure the story is great. It's not, so much about moving quickly from one part to the other. Then you're really pulling people in. That's the old Johnny Cash, the old country, the old, like, you're listening to the story. The melodies are great, but you're captivated by the story. So I guess a good way to put it is choose a song structure that is going to captivate on whatever area you want to focus on. If you want to write a story song, then worry more about the story than the melody. I mean, obviously, make a great melody, but you're not going to try to make some hooky, poppy, Justin Bieber type melody. It's going to be focused on the lyric and the story. So it may be like, we get that, Kevin, but I think just challenging ourselves to do something that we're not comfortable with could bring some pretty cool creativity. So, another thing I was going to say is this is not song structure per se, but another thing that's a pretty cool exercise is if you do start with melody I usually write either to acoustic guitar or piano, but a couple times, I don't do this a lot because it's not that it's difficult, I just get impatient and start playing something. But a couple times I've tried to just sing a melody and write lyric and melody for a whole song and like do a voice memo on a phone. And some people write primarily like this. I don't usually. So it was a little difficult for me, but record the entire song melody-wise and then just play it back on the phone and then just play piano or guitar to it. And I've found that adds like a lot of different nuance. It's almost like it'd be like writing with another person because you can focus on one thing or the other, where I feel like I'm not a good enough guitar player or piano player to really get creative on the instrument while I'm singing. Some people are, I'm not. So I have to kind of separate my brain out in those two things and kind of focus on one or the other first. So that's really cool, a cool exercise for me. And then you can do the opposite. You could just write the music first, which I feel like probably more people do that. More bands probably do that, is like focus on the music first. And so I feel like you're just going to do whatever your strong suit is. So sometimes handicapping yourself and doing your weakness first is kind of a cool workaround, because there's the top-down method where it's like, I'm going to focus on the most important thing first. And that seems like the best thing to do. However, If you go bottom up, you focus on your weakness first. By the time you get to your strength, now you've really focused on the weak areas and you've got them as good as they can be, even if you're not so great at it, that when you get to your strength, it's like off the charts. And so kind of think about that. We talk about that in mixing music, is like a top-down method or a bottom-up method. But when it comes to songwriting, you can apply it there too. You can focus on your weakness first, and then by the time you get to your strength, it's just the icing on the cake, and it's, you may have something pretty special. So anyway, I'm rambling. Anything else? Jackson, did you have anything to add or questions or comments?
What do you do? Okay, this might be dumb, but no. When it comes to melody and the music part of it, I feel like I'm A-okay. It is literally the lyric writing. I can come up with melodies all day. I'm like really happy with them. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to stuff to like actually write about, I'm like, I have a bunch of different stuff, multiple different songs, but it's like 1 or 2 lines and then like that's it. What exercises would you recommend for like working on lyrics? Because I've tried just sitting there and like, come on, give me something, and like nothing happens. So what would you recommend?
So something I recommend, I can't remember who originated this phrase. It's a woman, she's an author, and gosh, I should have her name written down or something, but she has something called morning pages, and she challenges her writing students to wake up first thing in the morning, and before you do anything, maybe get a cup of coffee or something, but before you do anything else, you just journal like 2 or 3 pages, just like, and not trying to write about anything. You're just free form writing, my thumb hurts, it's dark outside. And like before you know it, you start, just rambling on something. Your mind opens up, your heart opens up, and you'll just start writing. And so I'm a big proponent of journaling, freeform, not trying to write lyrics, but even if you want to write around the topic that your song is about, just to not try to write it in lyrical form, but literally be like, so if I'm like, I want to write a song about Ruby, my daughter, I want to write about, her life, instead of like, if I'm stuck, now if lyrics just start coming, I'll just write them down, but if I'm stuck, I'll stop worrying about rhyme schemes and patterns of rhymes and stanzas, and I'll just start journaling about Ruby and what I think about her, and then different words come up. I can start to see different sentences that are a lot more artistic, a lot more like paints a picture, and I'll just start circling sentences and underlining stuff and then pulling from my journal entry to be like, okay, that's interesting. Like these sentences are interesting. They could link together and I can begin to form some lyrics out of this. And so journaling's big. Another thing to do is if you're in the like, I know what I want to say, but I can't figure out the way to say it, and I'm getting stuck on a rhyme scheme, what I find is I will bang my head against the wall for the longest time trying to write a couple lines, and then I'll realize, dadgummit, Kevin, just change the last word in the line, because I'll just be stuck on the rhyme more than the word or the thought. And so if I change that word, if in my mind I'm trying to rhyme, flame, blame, and for some reason I forget I can change that, I get stuck in this cycle of like, I can't think of what to say that rhymes with flame. I'll just be like, you idiot, change the word flame to something else, and like even go like completely opposite. So don't try to do like another long vowel sound. Go like a short open vowel that's like totally different, from flame to rut, or don't try to match that long sound, because I think your brain is just getting, whoever in that moment, our brains are getting stuck on a rhyme that doesn't work, and we're sacrificing good lyrics for a rhyme. And so if you focus on lyrics first and then arrange rhymes later, you can even move lines around in a song and make them work, make them fit. Because we get so stuck in what we write down first and then what we write down second. And then it seems chronological, like you can't move it, but you can, and not getting stuck to, not overcommitting to a rhyme. I think for me, that's what I notice is when I get stuck, is I've overcommitted to a rhyme scheme. Another thing that is like my saving grace, and some people might say it's cheating, but it's using a rhyming dictionary. I've freaking
saved my life many times.
Love those things. So I've used Rhyme Zone for years. There's probably like apps and everything, but I've just used this website for years. But it's so good. Like, I've written so many cool lines by finding near rhymes and rhymes I wasn't thinking of that actually will say something better than what I was intending, and then always looking up synonyms, antonyms, all sorts of stuff to find different ways of saying things. So in my course at the end, I have like ways to edit and go back and edit yourself on songs, and that's one of the things, is to look at any common words, cliche words that we use, and look up synonyms to see if we can, find a better way or a more interesting way to say something besides how we normally do. Plus, it's just a great way to educate ourselves and get our vocabulary to increase, so that in the future we actually use more interesting words, because we've been looking at a thesaurus long enough to say, oh, I can say this instead of that, and it's going to be a lot more interesting. So those are some things. Journal, don't overcommit to a rhyme scheme, and use a rhyming dictionary. But lyrics that's a really tough area. That's what I've heard, like, from other people that have written me, is like lyrics are a sore point. And so at some point I might do a course on lyrics. I don't think of myself as like super proficient in lyrics, but I might draw on some other people and gather some information on that. But
I think you're selling lyrics, Kev. You've always been awesome.
Well,
yeah, I think you're selling yourself a little short on that one. I've seen you make people cry.
You guys are sweet. But yeah, I think those are ways to, like, just to get out of ruts, realize that, there's really no rules. Obviously, we want to, like the rant I went on earlier, if we want to stay close enough to the rules to make sense, but push the boundaries just enough to be interesting. But it's also just doing this long enough to where you form your own style, and you get more comfortable with your own writing. So I hope that was beneficial to you. A big thanks to Jackson and Travis for letting me air this, for being my guinea pigs. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have not yet grabbed my Killer Melody checklist, go to soundstoliveby.com/checklist and get that now. It'll help you write better melodies. Until next time, keep writing. Stay calm in this time. Stay hopeful. Stay positive. Write songs that are edifying and build up everyone around you. We'll talk to you next time. See you then.